welcome to this month's edition of Roanoke County Today. I'm Teresa Hall, Roanoke County's Public Information Director. We're standing outside the new Western Virginia Regional Jail, which has been under construction for about 2 years. When it opens this month, it will house inmates from the city of Salem and the counties of Franklin, Montgomery, and Roanoke. For this month's show, we thought we'd head inside for a tour and to talk to some of the people who've helped make this project possible. Charlie, right here by us, you have your transition team assembled. What has the transition team meant to this project? What have some of their tasks been? And maybe just explain who some of these folks are that are behind you.
We know, Teresa, this is certainly a massive jail project, and this team basically interviewed and hired basically they interviewed over 1,300 applicants for these positions, and they hired our 200 staff. And they've been busy writing policies and procedures, developing security operations, as well as duty post orders to ensure that we could operate this facility when it did open in March.
It sounds like they had an integral part of this whole process since, since ground was broken back in 2007.
That's exactly right. It's about 15 folks that serves on this transition team. We certainly couldn't have done this project without them. Each of them had a task to complete. We developed a transitional timeline. They met their goals all along, and basically it was the best insurance to ensure that we would open this project on schedule.
Well, why don't we take a moment here and introduce some of the folks around the table, and since you have the microphone on, I'll let you go ahead and name everybody and talk about what their role has been.
Miss Debbie Hammond. She came to us from Lynchburg Regional Jail, so she's been through this process before. She currently serves as our record supervisor, and right now she's coordinating and implementing the jail management system. That's how we track inmate information, court dates, and release dates, and things of that nature. Letitia Smith, she came to us as our Human Resources Director, and under her guidance we received over 1,200 to 1,300 applications for employment, so she had to screen these applications, and again we worked to hire the 200 staff that was needed to staff this new facility. Now, Greg Winston, he serves as a divisional commander. He's been very active in writing policies, procedures, and designing the security that will be needed to operate the new facility. Lori Fordork, she's our accreditation manager. She's responsible for writing policies and procedures and also ensuring compliance with state and national standards. Amanda Tuck, she's our training officer. We just completed probably 100 training of 100 new officers through the Roanoke County Criminal Justice Academy, and she did coordinate all that training.
That had to have been a massive undertaking.
It was. Basically the Roanoke County Criminal Justice Academy stepped right up. They agreed to let us participate in their training programs, and we certainly had a short timeline to get it done, so it wouldn't affect our opening schedule for this facility. Our business manager, she has written all the business policies. She's implemented all of our financial forms. She's coordinated all of our banking accounts and things of that nature. She's developed all of our budgeting. For this year, she tracks expenses, and she's been real important to our operation. Now, I guess everyone knows Deputy Superintendent Bobby Russell. He's a coordinator of the transition team, and he meets regularly with them, and he ensures that everything that's needed to get done is completed.
Letitia, what has it meant to you to be part of this transition team as this project has got underway?
Well, it's actually just exciting. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's something that you can always take with you. Being a part of something from the ground up is just it's something you can talk about for years and years. This project has been massive. It's been something that I've been proud to be a part of, and proud to say that I value the fact that I'm here and know that I'm making a difference within the lives of everyone who actually has been hired here.
Sherry, tell me a little bit about a massive undertaking to be able to make all of these purchases and keep up with all of the funds and everything that goes along with that.
Yes, we've worked along with our fiscal agent, the County of Roanoke, to make the purchases for the small city that's underneath this roof here. So we've had to buy clothing and food prep items and furniture, security equipment, uniforms, just about everything under the sun we've had to buy. But it's been quite an undertaking to get it here on time, but we're going to make our deadline.
Another thing, when we brought them out of the academy, we had over 3,000 hours of training here on site, and it's certainly not complete. We had to train each officer in our jail's policies, procedures, security applications, and things of that nature. So training is certainly still going on right here on the jail site.
Okay, Derek, you're in here, you're training some of the folks that are in this room. Tell me a little bit about the training and what's necessary for it.
Today what we're doing is we're just covering some officer safety procedures that we're dealing with in the facility. Just trying to get them familiar with our policy and procedures, how we want them to handle themselves with the inmates, because we've got a lot of new recruits that have not worked in this area or this line of work, so we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page and doing things the same across the board.
What we're learning now is officer safety, how to check the inmates that are coming in for any kind of weapons that they might have on them, such as guns or knives.
Why did you want to come and work for the regional jail?
I thought it would be a great opportunity for me. I used to work for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I worked there for 14 years, and the regional jail was opening up, and I figured it would be a great opportunity to come here and work.
The education that the recruits are receiving right now about the taser, what do you try to teach them about that?
We'll try to teach them the one thing. A lot of folks are scared of electricity. That there's nothing to be scared of, and there's a right time and a wrong time to use it. The main thing we want to teach them is the right time to use it, how to use it safely. And one thing about this device, I've used OC spray, all the other type of intermediate weapons. This one is safe, prevent injury for the inmates as well as to the deputies or the officers.
By having the recruits actually be tasered, what is the lesson there?
The lesson there, if you ever have to go to court, you can articulate what happened to you, number one.
You went through the process just now where you were tasered. What did that feel like? What was...
You can't do anything. I mean, as soon as it hits, you're going to the ground. Whatever you're doing is going to stop, so you don't have to worry about anybody getting up and doing anything.
What does it teach you about being a corrections officer and having experienced this?
Well, you know what the person's going through, so if you know if something's odd, you might want to get some help for them. You also know what situations to use it in, so you're not going to be using it, without responsibility.
Basically, this has been a massive jail project. It's a lot that's gone into this project. Right now, we're in the quarter right outside the inmate housing units. This facility has over 1,100 doors and locks. It has 6 acres of roofing material. It has 22 tons of steel in this facility, 40,000 tons of concrete, and we have 155 miles of wiring. So basically you could stretch the wire, if you put it together, and it would stretch from here to past Harrisonburg, Virginia. As you see, as we pass here, we have some of the shift supervisor offices. That's our folks that will be running the facility after hours. We're headed towards the intake in our Sally Port area. Our Sally Port area is where all the inmates first come into the facility, And the intake area is where we process those inmates.
Charlie, there are so many wings to this regional jail. Describe where we're at right now.
Teresa, we're at the intake office right presently. This is the area where all the inmates will be processed and booked into the facility from our partner jurisdictions. They're brought in through the Sally Port here, brought into the facility. They go through an intake medical screening and a mental health screening, and we get all the information we need to commit the inmate right here to this booking counter.
Okay.
From here, they go through a medical evaluation, and they're placed in a holding cell like one of these right before you, and they generally stay in these holding cells up to 24 hours. From that point, they go through a classification process. That's to determine where to safely house them in the facility, and they also go through a complete medical examination. From this point, they're assigned to a cell in our general housing unit.
Okay, so this sounds like one of the crucial places in the jail. I mean, a first stop shop.
It is. This is where all the evaluations first take place. We get to know the inmate in this area. We know the criminal history, and we know at this time during this process where's the best place to hold that inmate to ensure the safety of our facility.
Because based on whatever comes out of this location determines where they're going to go next. And you have several different wings that they can be placed in.
We have several different classification levels, and it's based on their need for security.
Give us an example of some places.
Well, we have a maximum security. It may be dictated by the inmate's behavior and also that individual's charges. If he comes in here charged with murder and he's had a past criminal history, he'll be housed in the maximum security area. Mm-hmm. Now we'll use inmates in this facility in our food service program, our laundry program, maintenance, and sanitation. So basically everybody in this facility will be working. However, some of them may not work out of their housing units. But inmates will be very well involved in maintaining this facility.
Charlie, you had described that there are many different sections of the regional jail, and we talked about maximum security, and that happens to be where we are right now.
That's exactly right, Teresa. We have 28 segregation type cells right here. And inmates may be housed in this area if there's a risk to the safety and security of the facility. And once they are housed in this area, they stay in their cells up to 23 hours per day, and they get out 1 hour for exercise and showers and things of that nature. But the assignments here are due to the classification process interviews that I mentioned to you. We have to assess the risk that inmate may be to our facility, and we'll hold him accordingly.
And so that's determined in that. Exactly, and that's determined in that intake area. When you come in there, they take all of the information, and this could be one assignment that an inmate would receive, would be to come right here.
That's exactly right.
Is there any difference between the security level of maximum security and the rest of the jail, or is the security level the same? It's just that you have to distinguish which section is which.
Well, basically, we do have several security levels here. Basically, it's maximum, minimum, and medium security. Our facility here, you will never see any of our inmates working on the highways or doing any community custody work whatsoever. Community custody inmates will be housed at the local jails, and we'll hold sentenced inmates, and our inmates will not work outside this compound. Again, anyone that's scheduled to be released from this facility, we'll transport them back to the facility where they came from, and we'll release them from that facility. So no one will be released walking down 460 or anything of that nature.
That was an important pledge you made to the community when the discussions were going on about where to locate this jail.
We made that pledge, and we made other pledges as well, not to use guard towers or security fencing, and I think we held to our promise without compromising our security. We have worked real closely with the community, and we certainly hope that we've been a good neighbor, and we want to continue to work with the community in the future.
For this part of the tour, we thought we would get a different perspective, this time from Deputy Superintendent Bobby Russell. Bobby, thanks so much for taking the time to kind of walk us through different parts of the regional jail and describe the section that we're in right now.
You're in the female housing unit of the facility. It's a two-tiered area that has cells on the top and the bottom, and it's designed to hold the females of different security levels in the jail.
Behind us we have one important component, I think, of this jail, the much talked about component, and that's the video visitation for the inmate. Describe what that's all about.
Well, one of the great features of the jail is the video visitation. It's a device that allows us, the inmates, to visit those family members that may be in the other jurisdictions or member agencies that we support. So I'll give you an example. If one of the inmates' family members lives in Montgomery County, they would go to the Montgomery County Jail, sit down in a video unit just like this, and meet and visit with the inmate from the housing unit. What that does, that limits the movement of the inmates in the facility and provides for a more secure area.
Cuts down on traffic to the facility.
Absolutely, it does that, and that's one of the lead features that we're going to incorporate into our lead certification is the video visitation, because it does in fact limit the emissions from the cars that would come to the facility.
And make for a safer overall facility.
Absolutely, it makes it much safer because you're limiting the movement of the inmates. You're keeping them in the housing areas, and you're not taking them to another part of the building to try to allow them visits with their family members.
Bobby, when you walk into this room, you can tell immediately that this is much different than some of the other areas we've been in the regional jail. A lot more freedom, it looks like, for the inmates.
It is. This area is for the trustees in the facility. They're our workforce. They go out to the laundry, they go sweep the halls, mop the floors, prepare the food in the kitchen. This gives them a little more freedom, the ability not to be locked in a cell all hours of the day. So it kind of affords them a few more benefits than some of the other regular inmates. They actually are out there working every day, keeping the facility running, so we want to try to provide them a little more incentive to do the work.
Tell me a little bit about who is able to work in the jail as a trustee.
Well, the trustees in this area are those inmates that have minimal criminal offenses. They may be your minor misdemeanors, bad checks, child support, things of that nature. They're going to go out in the facility, they're going to work every day, so we want to give them an incentive in this area to kind of have a little more freedom than they would if they were locked in a cell at night when they go to sleep.
I think a trustee, though, is very important to the jail because, from what I understand, you're trying to be sort of self-sufficient with the jail by using the trustees to do much of the work. You're
absolutely correct. The trustees are our workforce in the jail as far as maintenance, keeping the building clean, doing the laundry, cooking the food. So they're very important to the operation of the jail and make sure it runs smoothly.
About how many trustees do you anticipate you'll have here?
We'll probably have about 100 trustees, which is a pretty sizable workforce considering the size of the building.
One of the ideas early on was to try to make the regional jail as self-sufficient as possible so that you didn't have to transport the inmates out and back in again to make for a more secure facility. And that even goes down to providing medical care.
You're exactly right. We have a very comprehensive medical area in the jail. We're going to do many of the in-house treatments that most small jails would have to take out to the hospital. What that does, that keeps the inmate in the secure facility and also keeps the costs down for medical services. In here we'll be able to provide dental services just like you would have at your dentist. We have 3 dental operatories that the dentist will be able to move back and forth between patients just like the one that you would go to every day out in the community. We're also going to provide some in-house dialysis, which in addition keeps them back in the facility instead of going out for 3 or 4 hours for a dialysis unit out in the community once again. But we're going to do as many things in the facility, in the medical unit that we can to keep those costs down and keep the inmates in the jail where it's safe and secure for the inmate and for the community.
I think I've heard it before that this is almost like a small town, small city.
It is. The jail is very much like a city. We have the restaurant, the kitchen, we have the hospital in the medical unit, we have the hotel units in their housing area, so it's very much like a city, and this is very much like a hospital.
Are you required by law to provide medical care like this for inmates?
You're absolutely right. We do, by standard and by law, have to provide medical services to the inmates. We have to afford them the same medical treatment that they would receive out in the community.
We're now in the kitchen area of the Western Virginia Regional Jail and joined by Major Greg Winston, who's been with the jail since, I guess, since it's
January 14th of 2008.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about this kitchen area, and I assume that all of the food that is prepared for the inmates is done here.
All the food preparation is done in this kitchen area. The kitchen was designed to suit the building as it will be in 50 years. So you see that the kitchen itself appears to be oversized for a rated capacity of 805. But the kitchen itself is designed and can accommodate over 1,600 inmates. So food production in this kitchen will not have to be altered for the life of the building. So we're fortunate then that we have been forward thinking. We don't have to spend any more money in the future, even if we have to expand facility to bring in to accommodate more prisoners. Our kitchen, our laundry, our medical services was all pre-designed to accommodate any future build out of the facility.
And all of the food will be prepared here?
All of the food will be prepared right here on site. What's unique about our preparation style is our kitchen is designed in a couple of different phases. One, we have food storage in the food service warehouse. We have bulk storage in the back of the kitchen. All the food is brought up and produced right here on the production floor. It's prepared in several breakout rooms just behind us. Then the food is chilled and goes from about 180 degrees to about 35 to 37 degrees in less than 2 hours in the blast chillers behind us. Then it is stored in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. That food is plated out and it's taken out to the floor where the inmates are fed. It's reheated in kitchen cabinets and rethermalization cabinets out near the housing units, and then it is fed to the inmates hot, even though it may have been prepared 3 or 4 days ago.
What is the benefit to preparing the food so far in advance?
One of the biggest benefits, of course, is the less that you produce in the kitchen, the less days that you produce in the kitchen, the less staff intensive it is. Kitchen production is very staff intensive. So you have to have more staff here, and that's one of the major expenses of any kitchen operation is putting staff on site, the cost of the personnel. So if we only produce a limited number of days per week, 4 to 5 days per week versus 7 days a week, then that's less hours your kitchen has to be staffed with a private contractor. So whereas if you were doing a traditional heat and serve, which means we cook the food and we take it right to the prisoners,
right, you
would have to operate this kitchen almost 24 hours a day. As it stands right now, we'll only operate this kitchen for production a maximum of 8 to 5, 40 hours a week. So you can see the cost savings that provides for the authority and the localities by minimizing the amount of personnel required to produce food in the kitchen.
And is it more cost effective to just be producing in general the food here on site?
Absolutely. Anytime that you have to bring in food from another area or it's produced or outsourced at an off-site location, then you have to pay the additional transportation cost and the personnel costs associated with that. So we have about 30 days worth of storage at any one time where we can keep food here in the case of an emergency. We can feed the other jurisdictions if they ask us to provide food to them. We can produce the food here and transport it to the localities where they can benefit from the size of our kitchen. You know, it's a real benefit to all the localities to have such a large, sophisticated kitchen facility.
Will you have private contractors in here preparing the food, or will it be the trustees, or a combination?
We'll have a combination of both. We have hired, the authorities hired a private contracting company that one of their businesses operating correctional kitchens. So they hire professional correctional kitchen staff to come in, supervise the production of the food, and supervise the inmate workers who are in here assisting with the production of the food. This is the heart of the mechanical system of the jail, the vacuum plumbing area. All of the wastewater from the entire facility comes in through these large pipes. Each area has a single pipe. The waste is passed through a grinder and into this accumulator tank behind us. This accumulator tank will fill with waste. Once it gets to a certain level, it will turn these pumps on where the wastewater is pumped up these pipes around the corner, down under the ground into a force main waste elevation system. That waste is then pumped under the jail site, under the Roanoke River, up a ridge behind us and into a manhole. All of this is controlled by these 4 vacuum pumps behind us. These 4 vacuum pumps back here actually typically run very, very hot. Typically you would see a cold water chiller on each of the pumps. What we're doing here is we're siphoning rainwater off of the roof. Our roof is 6 acres in size. It takes about 3.5 inches of rain to fill 120,000 gallons worth of water tanks buried in behind the jail. The water that's buried out behind the jail is roughly 55 degrees when it comes in the ground. It is heated slightly, and it comes into the jail and cools the vacuum pumps. The heat that's rejected from the vacuum pumps actually heats the rainwater. The rainwater passes through a plate and frame heat exchanger, crosses the domestic cold water, preheating the domestic cold water prior to the domestic cold water going to the tankless gas-fired hot water heaters, where it is heated for the rest of the jail. So that is some of our rainwater reuse systems, also some of our energy saving systems. As I mentioned before, the jail recycles rainwater for 2 purposes. First of all, we have 4 30,000-gallon rainwater cisterns buried behind the jail. One use of the cooled rainwater, recycled rainwater, is to cool the vacuum pumps and preheat the domestic cold water. The second use of the recovered rainwater is to wash inmates' clothing. We'll actually take rainwater from the cisterns, pass it through this ozonator. Now, ozone is notoriously expensive to generate in large quantities. However, we don't need to purify the water to use in the laundry. We just must clarify the water. So we use a small amount of ozone, about the amount of ozone you'd find in a drinking water bottle. So the water is passed through a series of these filters, and it is slightly ozonated and stored in a large buffer tank. After that's stored in the buffer tank, it would be pumped to the inmate laundry, where the inmate's clothing will be washed with ozonated water. We have domestic cold water to back up both systems, the cooling system and the inmate laundry system, in case there's a drought and we are unable to collect enough rainwater. Another thing interesting about the inmate laundry is while we'll be using and washing inmate clothing with ozonated rainwater, we'll also be recovering the very last rinse cycle water and reusing that in the first wash cycle of the next batch of inmate clothing that we use. In the case of the loss of power at the jail, we have 2 1,500 kilowatt generators situated in order to provide power to the jail. We have 2 8,000 gallon storage tanks behind us, and each one of the generators has a 150 gallon day tank underneath it. We have the capacity of 16,300 gallons of fuel on site. Under full load, when we're powering the entire building, each one of the generators consumes 110 gallons of diesel fuel per hour. That's 220 gallons per hour under full load. So we have just over 3 days worth of emergency fuel right on site in order to keep the building running in the case of a power loss. If we need to, we can power the generators down and run only certain components of the systems in the jail in order to preserve fuel, and we can go for as long as 5 days without having to refuel the generator tanks.
Can lead to great things. Find out how a healthy lifestyle can help your child succeed.
That's all for this month's edition of Roanoke County Today. For more information on the new Western Virginia Regional Jail, visit our website at roanokecountyva.gov. Thanks for watching.